Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to take an adventure with rugged capability and commanding style. Check out the Honda Ridgeline, Pilot, or CRV. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Pilot, a 1.99% APR on a 2025 Ridgeline, or a 2.99% APR on a 2025 CRV.
See dealer for financing details.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. I'm your host John, and today we're reacting to the first 2 rounds of March Madness and everything that happened over this long weekend of basketball. We've got, unfortunately, some heartbreaking news with JuJu Watkins. We have some interesting news on ATBPod, and we have a lot of upcoming WNBA prospects to react to. But before we get into all of that, Kristen, how's it going?
It's great. I love this time of year. I love March Madness.
It's the best.
My bracket for women's was really horrible at first. But now it's pretty good, and we'll see.
Yeah, you've only really missed out on first round matchups, which it was fine. It was okay. There were only 2 upsets in the first round.
That's why.
Yeah.
Because you pick some upsets, but then if there's 2 upsets that you don't pick, well, then you get 8 games wrong.
Right.
So it was unfortunate how the first round went. But now we're back on track.
Right. Your Final Four's still around. Your winner's still around. That's all that matters. It's about the long game. It's not about the first round or even the second round. It's about the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final Four.
Yes.
The 2 and the 1.
So checking in with our bracket.
Yes, for all of our listeners that are participating in our bracket challenge on ESPN.
Thank you all for participating. We have 53 people in it. I am in 6th place right now, tied with 2 other UConn chosens. I chose UConn to win.
So you're the top UConn chooser.
We're all in tied together. Me, Paige v. Paige, and Uptown Dunk. And we all have the same max points. So we'll see. We have different Final Fours. So,
but looking at the top of the table, somehow my father, who has never filled out a bracket, a women's bracket, decided, sure, I'll fill one out. And he has TCU, the 2 seed, winning it all, led by Haley Van Lith. I asked him the other day, he got, I think he had 24 in a row. No, he had more than that. He had 32 in a row, something like that. He had a perfect first round, I think. Very near a perfect first round. And I asked him why he picked TCU as his champion. And he did not give me an answer. He doesn't know why. He just said, sure, they're a 2 seed. So he doesn't know the whole situation. He doesn't know how dominant these 1 seeds are. But he picked a team that has won their first 2 games pretty handily. So they might be able to make some noise in the later rounds of the bracket. But congratulations to my dad for being number 1. And then for our batch of second place, 4 teams tied for second, right behind them.
Right, and all South Carolina.
Right.
That's what's kind of interesting about this. If you look at who's tied, it's a chunk of South Carolina, a chunk of UConn's, a chunk of UCLA's. So, and then a chunk of UConn's and a chunk of South Carolina's. And then our good old sister Emily is pulling up the rear in last place.
Oh, is she actually? I didn't even check that.
Yeah.
Oh, And I'm down there in 31st. Unfortunately, I took a fall because I had Florida State beating LSU and winning another game to advance to the Elite Eight. But that didn't come true yesterday while watching the games. But it's still been very fun, and I would like to thank everyone again for participating. If you would like to email us and let us know, how you've been doing or if you've enjoyed this competition amongst one another, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or you could connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. We actually got a nice note, a nice message, an important message on our Instagram this week, Kristen.
Yes, shout out to Shay for letting us know on Instagram that we have been pronouncing Natisha Heidemann's name incorrectly. I feel like, in general, with these college games especially, and with W games, like, these announcers do not always know how to pronounce names.
No.
So, like, definitely we've heard people say Natisha Heidemann. But her nickname is T, so, like, yeah,
Right.
it makes sense that her name is Natisha. So there you go. Thank you for letting us know. We've learned.
Right.
And now we'll say it right.
So add Natisha Heidemann to the Julie Von Lowe and the Kiki Iriafen list of correctly pronounced players' names, which will always continue to grow because you want to make sure you're getting it right, and sometimes you just don't get it right. So it happens. Now let's dig into the meat and potatoes of this little chit-chat. We're reacting to the first 2 rounds and all the things we've seen so far in the NCAA women's bracket. And I think most importantly, we have to hit on the unfortunate, heartbreaking ACL tear of one JuJu Watkins last night. Literally as I was turning the game on. Our group chats blow up. My other group chats blow up. Just all caps no. And I'm like, well, it can only be one thing. JuJu Watkins, torn ACL confirmed, likely out for a long recovery period. What's your general reaction as we sort of mourn this 19-year-old great right now?
It's absolutely heartbreaking to me. I was not watching it. I was getting ready for bed. I was in the bathroom, and I just hear John say, "Oh, JuJu tore ACL." And John's, like, incredibly dramatic of a person. So I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, don't say that. She just fell. And he was like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
So I did not see it in real time. Watching the video afterwards, it, like, just makes me sick seeing her. And how the cameras were, like, over her body, that she's writhing on the ground.
Yep.
I was like, oh, this is gross. This is horrible. I felt so bad.
Yep.
It's really, like, an incredible bummer for USC.
Who had title aspirations, had the team. They were a 1 seed. They had the runway.
Well,
they would have had to take on UConn, but still.
I was worried they were going to lose the game, but they didn't.
Right.
But yeah, it really, really sucks.
It's such a bummer because of, we had our episode talking about the bracket, and I was so excited for this Elite Eight matchup between Paige and JuJu. And I said, like, I can't believe how early we got it. And now we don't get it at all.
Well, why are you saying that?
Well, like, we're losing the opportunity. It sucks. It's sad that she had to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like,
they could still put USC, just not JuJu.
Correct. It's not going to be JuJu versus Paige. Now, I would like to point out, in the case of USC, they won handily last night against Mississippi State. Kiki Iriafen took care of business. She had 36 points. She was scoring all over the court. This is going to be a huge opportunity for Kiki, who was, a few months ago, the de facto number 2 behind Paige in the upcoming WNBA draft. And, she's going to have an opportunity to win USC some games, to put the team on her back, and reestablish that number 2 overall status in the upcoming draft, because in a lot of mocks, she's been, maybe 5th spot to the Valkyries. In certain cases, I've seen her at 7 going to Connecticut now. So her stock was down a little bit, but now she kind of has an opportunity to recoup. And, that's good for Kiki. I think the Storm are certainly a team that could select her at 2 if they see her as such a, drop dead prospect that, that could be the heir apparent to Nneka Ogwumike, like another power forward to build your team around. I just look at it that way. And, unfortunately, it's going to be a while until we see JuJu again. But now we have an opportunity to see USC in a sort of a different light, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't want to say that this was a good situation for anyone. I'm sure that even Kiki, who will get more spotlight on her, is very upset about it.
Oh, they all are. As they would be.
But you're right. It could rise her draft stock.
Mm-hmm. And I like, when it all happened last night, I was just thinking about how big of a ripple effect that this could have on the next couple years of, the next couple years of the WNBA. Because we know that JuJu Watkins was slated to be selected at the top of the 27 draft. And now, given her recovery time on an ACL, there's probably a good chance that she makes it back at the end of the season next year with USC. But I would be surprised if, let's say she only gets back for maybe 2 home games and then a tournament run. They play a couple games. I feel like, if she has an opportunity to play a little bit in 26 and then a full season in 27, she might feel like she wants to do one more.
Yeah.
And, like Paige was a 5-year player. Obviously, she redshirted. And this would be a very similar situation for JuJu. But it wouldn't be shocking if in 2027, JuJu decides to not, give up her NCAA eligibility, decides to go one more time and pushes it to 28. Because that 27 draft class is surprisingly stacked. There's a lot of good players that could be vying for that number 1 overall pick. Most certainly Malaysia Fulwiley at South Carolina. So there are players that can contend with her, and maybe she wants to make it more of a sure thing, because I'm unaware of the 2028 prospects. I don't know that far ahead. Mm-hmm. But like, if she was there, she's the sure thing. So you're just sort of expecting one thing, and now it sort of could shift the whole schedule. And we have expansion teams, but there are going to be teams that are going to want JuJu Watkins on their team.
Yeah.
And going to want to figure out how they can get JuJu Watkins on their team. That's all I'll say. And they might have to plan differently now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll see in 2 years if she decides to stay another year or go into the draft.
Sure. I'm just saying that it could be a thing worth thinking about.
It could extend her college, of course. Someone who did extend their college career today or yesterday was AZ Fudd of UConn, who is this is her 4th year. She's a senior.
Yes.
And so she decided to stay another year because she wants to continue to develop. She will have a chance to lead the team without Paige. So sure, I think it's a great opportunity, even though she definitely would have been drafted in probably the first round of this draft.
Almost certainly. But it would have been the back of the first round as it was currently slated.
Sure.
Like, I think Mox had her as high as like 9, maybe 11. So like pretty low. But now she has an opportunity to be a top 5 overall pick.
Sure.
Which, with the new CBA, gonna be worth a lot of money.
Right. So like, does any of it have to do with the new CBA next year, where rookies will have better contracts than this year? But I just feel like we don't know how big of a difference it's going to be. They're already making so much money in college.
Right. The NIL is has been a huge factor.
Right.
And like AZ's a player that has opportunities in that, for sure.
Right. And I totally get just like wanting to stay in college longer.
Right.
So.
But and to be the head of a program like UConn, like you're giving yourself a huge opportunity. And like looking at the 26 draft, she's not necessarily, and this is from a January mock, so a while ago, but the projected top 5 prospects at this point were Flaujae, Kiki Rice, Tanaya Latson, Beers, and Lauren Betts. So 5 players that are not AZ Fudd. However, AZ Fudd could work herself into that conversation, and money on top of money for a team that is ready for her. I think it's a worthwhile opportunity. I think our group chat personally was hoping that she entered. I think there was definitely a part of me that was hoping that she could somehow end up with Paige in Dallas. Theoretically could happen next year. I don't know where Dallas is going to pick, but I can't really fault her. I can't really fault Daisy for making the decision.
No, of course not. I respect it.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to take an adventure with rugged capability and commanding style. Check out the Honda Ridgeline, Pilot, or CRV. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Pilot, a 1.99% APR on a 2025 Ridgeline, or a 2.99% APR on a 2025 CRV.
See dealer for financing details.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace, too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
All right, so now let's get into reactions at large from the tournament thus far, maybe through the eyes of some of the up-and-coming prospects in the 2025 WNBA draft. Anywhere you want to start, any game or any action or any player that like surprised you or jumped out at you?
So there was a game in the second round. It was Kansas State versus Kentucky, a 5 versus a 4. Which these 5 versus 4 games were so good.
Yes, the 5-4 matchups were pretty good. The lion's share of the tournament thus far has been some massive, massive blowouts. Like 60-point blowouts by UConn, 60-point blowout by South Carolina. Duke had a 50-point blowout. So it's been pretty like top seed heavy, but like you said, these 5-4 have probably been the best on both sides of the bracket. But yes, this Kansas State Kentucky game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game in particular I thought was really good. I had Kansas State winning over Kentucky.
I had Kentucky.
Oh.
Got that one wrong.
But this game went into overtime. Kansas State won by 1 point, 80-79. Poindexter on Kansas State hit 8 threes. She was like, couldn't miss. Georgia Amore is on Kentucky.
Yes.
Who will be entering this draft.
Yes, a likely mid to high first round pick.
She is from Australia.
Yes.
She had 18 points, 6 assists. She played for 45 minutes.
Yeah, basically played the whole game.
Yeah, pretty insane. She was 7 for 23, so like not great. Mm-hmm. But towards the end, like she was fueling them towards the end. Mm-hmm. And she had the ball in the last second, and she was going for a layup to win the game, and she missed the layup to win the game.
Tough.
And it was just like, yeah, not a great look. Like, you have to make that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the duality of March Madness. They win their first round game by a point. They lose their second round game by a point. Mm-hmm. In that first round game, that was what I actually missed this second round matchup, but I'm glad you were able to see. I saw Amore drop 34, and they needed all those points to get past Liberty in that first round. But I will just say that as soon as she missed that layup, because I did see the clips, she was called into interviews, and she was very vocal about, like, I will not let one missed layup define my 5 years at Kentucky.
Of course.
Of course. And she was also very open, saying, yes, I am going to be in the draft. I will be going to the W. Like I said, she's currently projected 7th overall to Connecticut after trading that pick from New York. And she's a 5'6" guard, small guard, but she has some, I would say more than some, scoring upside. She can shoot the ball. She can finish. I think about a 5'6" guard, Kelsey Plum. Maybe she could be a Kelsey Plum type, and especially for a team like Connecticut that's going to want to rebuild altogether with the 7th pick and the 8th pick, like, that's going to give them an opportunity to spend a pick on a small guard, because they know they can pick a bigger player at the 8th spot. So if they think that Georgia is the talent that they need to run their offense, you can't win without a good point guard, then Georgia Amore might be worth considering there.
Don't they have J.C. Sheldon?
They do have J.C. Sheldon.
That's so random to me.
J.C. Sheldon, who we noticed on the bench of the Ohio State game.
Oh, yeah, she was there.
We're like, is that J.C.?
Ohio State, who lost.
Another 5-4 game.
That was a good game, too. They played Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of that game wasn't as great. Tennessee won 82-67. But the middle was good. That was a good game, too. So, yeah, these 5-4s. Another 5-4, very notable, was Alabama versus Maryland.
Very notable. Probably the best game of either tournament so far.
For sure.
But by far. A double overtime thriller. 111 to 108. Plenty of scoring. Basically no defense. A bunch of gas players, but some players rising to the occasion. Who's worth talking about in this game? Because there were a lot of interesting players that I was not entirely familiar with before we really paid attention to this game.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't familiar with anyone on either of these teams beforehand. But of Maryland, Cheyenne Sellers, she had 28 points. She will be going into the draft, and I thought she was great.
Yeah, she was a great watch. She had mini aura, I said. She had the Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray glasses on while she played. Really good sized player, 6'2", plays like a guard, can operate like a forward. Pretty perfect size wing player that would be good on any team. Right now, she's projected to go 6th overall to Atlanta. So try to imagine Atlanta, Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, Cheyenne Sellers, Jordan Canada, BG. That's a pretty good squad.
True.
That's a pretty good squad. Not to mention all their other solid quality bench players. Cheyenne Sellers feels like a win now player to me from what I saw. Certainly capable of doing a little bit of everything, which is, what you want if you're picking in the middle of the first round. You want to try to, not necessarily have to pick for fit a player that's 6'2" and can handle the ball like she can and score the ball. Like, that's going to be the best player available.
Yeah.
Unless one of the top 4 maybe falls out.
And then we had Sarah Ashley Barker on Alabama, who played 49 minutes and had 45 points.
Yes. The Alabama school record for points in a game.
Uh-huh.
Pretty quality stuff there from
really good
SAB.
But we don't really see her much in mock drafts.
No.
She's 23.
So she is eligible. And we were talking about this while we were watching the game in our group chat. We feel like with this game alone, she's, boosted her draft stock. I mean, think about like Kate Martin, who just shows up to the draft, not expecting to be drafted, gets drafted, and now is like
the face of the Valkyries.
Right. Things could be very different if not for the opportunity that you get from the tournament. Like, the tournament gives an opportunity for scouts to get a lot of attention, a lot of eyes, a lot of people watching. And I have to imagine that Sarah Ashley Barker is going to get some attention. I would be stunned if somebody doesn't throw a second round pick at a player that dropped 45 points in a game.
I would be stunned if she doesn't get drafted.
Yeah.
Like, all eyes were on her in this game.
Yeah. And it was I really have to say, I was so impressed that she gets fouled on a 3 with no time on the clock.
Oh, this was insane.
83-80, Maryland's up by 3, and she calmly and collectedly makes all 3 free throws after being 4 for 8 on the day, 72% free throw shooter, knocks him down without a question, and pumps her fists. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Free throws, you can say what you want about free throws, but when it's that much pressure, seeing them make it is pretty sick.
No, we were like, okay, absolutely no
She's
way
gonna miss. Right.
she makes these free throws. And she made all 3 back to back. It was beautiful, honestly. And like, that's what you need in these high pressure situations, to know that this girl can like really handle the pressure and she'll step up. It was like, I would draft her. It was incredible.
It was incredible. So hopefully we hear, and we're talking about her on draft night, because she seems worth it to go to any team. Yeah, so that's just like a high level. Obviously, there were 48 games to watch, and between this and the men's tournament, didn't really have the opportunity to check every single player that I wanted to see. So I'm looking forward to checking in on Notre Dame in the Sweet 16. They have a really quality matchup against TCU. Saw a little HVL in the first couple rounds, but this is going to be huge. I mean, HVL beat Louisville, her old team. That was a pretty huge matchup, but very much looking forward to that 3-2. Texas and Tennessee is going to be pretty sweet. South Carolina playing that Maryland team that is going to be riding so much momentum. South Carolina had a pretty rough second round, only scored 64 points against Indiana, and it was a pretty slow start for them. I don't expect that to be the case, but I'm looking forward to that. UConn, their last game last night in Connecticut at Gamble Fieldhouse or something like that. Yeah, UConn's last game at Gamble Fieldhouse. Paige
Pavilion.
Gamble Pavilion, whatever you want to call it, Fieldhouse Pavilion. Paige had her career high, 30, tied her career high, 34. I was talking in the group chat with our friends about how I was surprised that Paige hasn't dropped a 40 piece in her college career. and they set me straight, all saying that, like, you know, she had her injuries, and Gino likes to share the ball, and they have so much quality talent. I guess that makes sense. All I can think of is that when Paige gets into the W, Chris Coaklines is going to let her cook. Like, she is going to go crazy. I expect some 50 pieces in the first year.
Well, being on the same team with Arike, I don't know about that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Might have to take a back seat.
But I am particularly watching the Texas-Tennessee game. Because if Tennessee wins, then I will win this bracket challenge.
She's so confident. Madison Booker has a plan.
So I really believed Dat when he was talking about Tennessee in our last podcast. So fingers crossed for Tennessee.
Sure. I have Texas, so I will be rooting for Texas. And I will continue to root for my UCLA Bruins, who have been pretty good behind Lauren Betts.
No one's saying that they're not.
Well, I've actually heard that, especially in that second round against Richmond, they had a bit of a slow start as well. I remember a friend of the pod, Laura, saying UCLA can kind of stink sometimes.
Okay. Don't put Laura on blast.
Sometimes, but then they figure it out because they're a 1 seed, and understandably they're going to figure out. Even with the blowouts, it has been a fun tournament. I've very much enjoyed watching all of these players and getting a better idea of like some of these upcoming WNBA prospects, because we're going to be talking about them all year long after the draft. I hope you all continue to enjoy watching the tournament. There's a lot of fun more basketball. Continue to follow your bracket and our bracket challenge. Send us an email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. Connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. Kristen's got something else.
Yeah, I do want to say, we've been hearing about all these women's sports bars around the country, bars like solely showing women's games. And I'm like, there's gotta be some people in Philly that are doing this, but we just totally haven't heard about it. And finally, last week, I found this account called Watch Party PHL.
Yes.
Who, for a year, has been like working with bars to show women's sports. They had a whole unrivaled championship party
that we couldn't
make.
make.
Where the heck were we? I didn't even know about it until last week. So that sucked that we missed that, but we're super excited to start going to some of their events that they're hosting.
Totally.
They are also working on opening the first women's sports bar in Philly next summer. I think next summer. So I donated to them, and I'm like excited to support it.
Yeah, full steam ahead.
And I did hear a story about, so they were hosting a like women's tournament watch party at a brewery. I won't say. Well, I can say the name of, because they were supportive. It was Dock Street South Brewery. And there was a guy there who came in who kept asking the bartenders, like, can you put a men's game on? Why is it only the women's teams on?
Guess you're in the wrong place, buddy.
And the bartenders was like, no, we're keeping the women's games on. We're not putting any men's games on here. And the guy was like getting pissed off at them. And they were
go
like,
to any other bar.
Exactly. Literally walk next door and go somewhere else.
Dumb.
So, but that was nice of them, of Dock Street, to play the women's games.
Yeah, shout out to Dock Street.
So I'm hoping this weekend we can go to some of their parties for the Sweet 16.
Yeah, heck yeah. That's going to be a blast. I'm very much looking forward to it. That's going to do it for this episode of Attack the Baseline. Look forward to our own March Madness bracket, looking at the dogs of the WNBA. That's a tease. Check that out. Coming soon. But Kristen, I'm staring at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the baseline. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy March Madness. Until we talk to you later. On top of that.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to take an adventure with rugged capability and commanding style. Check out the Honda Ridgeline, Pilot, or CRV. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Pilot, 1.99% APR on a 2025 Ridgeline, or a 2.99% APR on a 2025 CRV.
See dealer for financing details.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.